everyone, LG here from letsbuildaboutique.com, and today I want to welcome you back to our video series on how to open an online clothing store. So, today is lesson 2 in our video series. If you haven't checked out lesson 1, I will link it down below. But taking a look at our topics for today, our first topic is actually one of our most highly requested topics, and that is going to be on how much it costs to open an online clothing store and how to budget your boutique. So, before we begin, I want to provide a quick update on what topics we'll cover in our next video series. So go ahead and don't forget to subscribe and turn on those notifications so you don't miss out on any of our future content. And now, let's get started. So, how much does it cost to open an online clothing store? Well, that's actually a pretty difficult, tricky question to answer. But to give you a ballpark idea of what I see a lot of clothing store owners starting out with is going to be anywhere from about $200 to, let's say, $50,000 plus. And I know that's a wide range, but to give you a little bit more context, the example of when the person starting out with $200 to open their store is they're probably going to purchase, let's say, one pack of inventory from a wholesaler, and then they're going to make, let's say, a Facebook group where they invite all of their friends and all of their family and ask their friends and family to invite all of their friends and family and so on. And then from there, they're going to post the product that they bought, and as people buy that item, they will then go back and buy more inventory and start posting that inventory, and then from there, they will slowly build up to a point where they have a lot of product that would be considered a full online clothing store. So that's an example of how to start small. But then on the flip side, there are going to be people who purchase a ton of inventory and have a budget set aside for marketing and advertisements, and that's when you're going to see more of the 50,000 or more side. But that being said, that's just like the ballpark range that I want to give you guys. I think it's a lot more common to spend somewhere around 10,000. I think that's what I've seen probably the most. But to that point, that's not necessarily what I'm going to recommend for you guys. I think it's going to be a lot more beneficial to start small and then work your way up. So that way, if some unforeseen situation comes up, or you realize it's a lot harder to sell clothes online to strangers than you thought, which it is, you will not dig yourself into a hole of debt. So another example would be, let's say that someone decides they want to sell used clothing or vintage clothing, etc. They're going to take out all of the clothing from their closet and then post on Instagram and have people purchase those products from them from Instagram. You could technically get away with saying that you started a clothing store with no money, and you can use that, the money you get from those sales, to grow. I mean, there's different ways you could do this, but if that's not your vision, if your vision is going to be to purchase from wholesalers, have a whole website where people can come and shop from you online, and then you want to ideally have strangers purchasing from you, then you're going to want to pay attention to what I'm about to cover, which is going to be all of the common boutique expenses or online clothing store expenses that you will find as you open your store. And some of these may be expenses that you wouldn't have thought about, so I think it's going to be very beneficial for you to pay attention, maybe take some notes, maybe rewatch this more than once. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pull out my notebook where I'm going to cover some of the more common expenses that I have seen that clothing store owners will need to consider when opening their online store. So the first item is going to be your wholesale products. So what you're going to do is take a look at a bunch of different wholesale clothing vendors. And then from there, you're going to narrow them down to determine your store's ideal style that will match the vision you're going for your store. Once you narrow those wholesale vendors down, what you're going to do is then purchase what we call packs from these wholesale vendors. So what's going to be included in these packs is a range of sizes in that particular product style, and oftentimes it will be small, medium, large. Some vendors will do extra small to extra large, and then of course some vendors are going to have plus sizes. So once you determine what you're looking for and you narrow down those suppliers and you find your style, you will order those packs, and then you will take those items, you will price your products and mark it up for your website. And then from there, you're going to determine how many products you want to have on your store's launch day. So some stores will have somewhere from 5 to 10 products. Some stores will do more than 20 or 30. You have to determine what's best for your budget and what your goal is for your store's launch day. But what I highly recommend is starting small. So I would honestly recommend starting with like 5 products or less, depending on your budget, and making an effort to sell those products. And then when you get money for those products, then go back to the wholesalers and buy more products in different styles. So this will help you avoid going into debt from the beginning, because the last thing you want to do is go into debt before you even get started, because this is going to be the most expensive item on this list. So the next item is going to be your online platform. This is going to be the e-commerce platform you use for your website to showcase your products to your customers. So I highly recommend Shopify, and I will link to them down below. They are by far my favorite e-commerce platform. They make it so easy for you to build your website, design it with a theme, and make it very pretty and ready for your customers on your launch day. Now, the price of a platform like this will be a monthly subscription fee. Shopify has their basic plan starting at $29. They do have a light plan, but I recommend the basic plan. What you can do is actually sign up for their free trial and design your website, see how you feel about it, and then after 14 days, then you will start to pay the monthly fee. Next, we have your professional email service. So some stores will choose to start off with, let's say, a Gmail account. So it would be, for example, your store's name at gmail.com. And that's fine, but a lot of stores will choose to take a more professional route where they actually pay to have their own email. So for example, would be info@yourstorename.com, or it could be something like hello@yourstorename.com. And this is going to appear a lot more professional and make it seem like you are a real business. So the email provider that you use, whether you're using Google or a different provider, it's going to be paid out on a monthly subscription basis as well. Then next we have your website domain. So this is going to be where you purchase your domain URL from. And I recommend GoDaddy, but there are a bunch of other options available. I can share some information about them here. The thing about the domain provider is that you're going to pay for this annually. So you're going to pay for your URL when you're ready to pay for it, whether that's today or in a week or so. And then from there, you're going to be charged for it to renew it every single year. So that's going to be another subscription fee, but it's going to be on an annual basis. The next item on the list is advertising or marketing budget. So I personally think that this is one of the most important areas to save money for your overall store's budget. Now this is because so many clothing store owners that I see, so many store owners, e-commerce in general, they think that they're going to spend all of this time building up their website, and then on day one, they think it looks perfect, they launch, and then they just expect a ton of strangers to come flocking to their website and buy their products. But the reality is that no one is going to know that your store exists if you don't learn how to market your store to strangers. So there are a couple of ways you can go about this. At the very, very minimum, I recommend that you take some time to learn about some marketing 101 techniques, especially if you can find something that will explain e-commerce digital marketing. But there are also a bunch of alternatives, like you can take the time to invest in a paid course, so that's one option, or you need to take time to learn about Facebook advertisements, Google advertisements, Pinterest advertisements. You can even consider purchasing an ad space in your local newspaper, you name it, but it's important to make sure that this is a part of your strategy, saving money for marketing, whether you invest in the paid course or you advertise online. You need to get your brand name out there to the world so people know that you exist and can come shop from you. The other option would be to hire an agency or a social media manager. There are so many available online. I would highly recommend considering it for your launch. If you do not feel comfortable learning marketing techniques, if you don't think that you have a knack for it, if you don't have a knack for social media, you may consider hiring someone to help you out in the beginning. And then what's similar to that is the idea of working with influencers. So when you work with influencers, what you will likely do is find some influencers that are in your niche and have the same style that you're selling. And then from there, you're going to send them a free product, and you will draft up a contract that tells them that they must post your product in exchange for the free product on their social media. Now, the bigger the influencer gets, they more than likely will require monetary compensation on top of the free product. So if you see an influencer with over 2 million followers and you want them to share your products to their following, you will likely have to pay a fee on top of sending them the free product. So this is something that you need to consider when thinking about your budget, because you will not only have to give them that free product, you will also have to pay for the shipping, and then you're not going to be able to resell that product and make a profit off of that product because you've given it to them for free. So that's just another thing to consider when thinking about your budget and your marketing strategy. Next on the list is shipping. So if you're selling products online, you need to factor into your budget the cost of shipping. So there are two areas we're going to talk about when it comes to shipping. But first is the cost of the shipping. So you can determine if you want to either offer free shipping or have your customers be responsible for paying for shipping. Now, it is a great marketing technique to make your store stand out to offer free shipping. Some stores will choose to offer free shipping at $50 or more, or $100 or more. That's up to you. But if you do take that route, you will need to factor the cost of the shipping price into your products. So you're not solely responsible for the cost of shipping. You will factor that price into all of your products. You also need to consider if you are going to ship internationally, because shipping internationally is so expensive. There are also import duty taxes that some countries require you to pay when you are shipping internationally. So that's something that you need to consider with your shipping strategy. Next, we also want to think about what we're going to ship the products in. So a lot of store owners will ship in poly mailers, but you also can ship in boxes, especially if you're shipping things like shoes or larger items like a nice big hat or a handbag. Either way, you need to think about the cost of these packages into your shipping strategy, because you do not want to wait until you are about to open in a week and realize that you don't have anything to ship your products in. So think about this as part of your budget. We also can consider including a freebie in our packages. So that's another way to make your store stand out, is to offer a freebie with every purchase. Now this can be something small. A lot of store owners will do something like a branded item, like a branded chapstick with every purchase, or a branded tote bag with every purchase. So that's something that you can consider to help yourself stand out. If you do take that idea, you're going to have to factor that into your budget. That is completely optional and up to you. We also want to consider if we want to include flyers or promo cards in the packaging that can provide more information about your social media. Every time your customer purchases from you, you might include a quick little flyer that talks about your store or offers a discount code for a future purchase. That's up to you. The other idea would be business cards. Let's say that you are meeting strangers out and about and you tell them about your store and they're interested, so they want to go home and take a look at your store. What you can do is hand them one of your business cards or a promo card, whichever one you've decided to run with. You can hand that out to people you meet on the street. Next, we have LLC. So if you want to set up your store legally, you will either need to choose a sole proprietorship or an LLC. I, of course, recommend LLCs. So the cost of an LLC will vary by where you are located. So every state is going to have a different cost. Georgia, for example, costs $100 to set up your initial LLC. And then on top of that, one thing that you need to realize that I'll point out today is that every single year you will have to register every year for your LLC moving forward. So you'll have the annual registration every single year. So that's another thing to think about long term in terms of your store's budget. Next, we have accountant or accounting software. So this is something that a lot of store owners don't think about in the beginning, but let me tell you, it is so beneficial to hire a professional accountant when tax season comes around because they can save you money when you file your taxes. A lot of store owners forget the fact that you have to pay sales tax and income tax depending on where you live, of course. So you'll have to look up your local rules, which is why it will be beneficial to work with a local accountant who knows the rules where you live. And then on top of that, you also want to use an accounting software. I personally use QuickBooks, but I can show a couple of other options as well. And what you want to do is start tracking all of your expenses now. You do not want to wait until it is time to file your taxes to go back 6 months, 8 months, a year, and try to remember everything you spent money on for your business. Whether you're writing it all down on paper, or you're tracking on Excel, or you're using one of these softwares, you need to start tracking your expenses today. Next on the list, we have graphic design or online editing tool. So depending on your comfort level with graphic design, you may choose to either hire someone to help you out with things like creating your logo, creating your social media templates, email marketing templates, designing your website, etc. It all depends on your comfort level and your skill level, because there are free online editing tools such as canva.com where you can create your own graphics. So that's going to be up to you. And if you have a friend or family member that can help you out, that'd be great. But either way, it's something to consider as part of your budget when you are opening your online store. Next, we have some of the supplies that have to do with your products. So first we have hangers. Now, if you don't have an abundance of hangers, it may be an expense that you need to add to your list to buy hangers for your products. In addition to that, you might want to buy a clothing rack where you can store your products, a great way to display your clothes on social media. We also have things like storage bins. So depending on whether you have a spare bedroom, a spare closet where you can store your products, you may need to buy some storage materials to store your products. You could buy shelves, you can buy storage bins, etc. You also may consider buying a steamer, because steamers are great little tools that can help you quickly de-wrinkle your products, and that will allow you to send your products out to your customers wrinkle-free. Or if you're taking photos of your products, you might also want to use the steamer to steam your products before you take the pictures of the products. So it's just a quick little tool to help you make sure your products are wrinkle-free. And lastly on our list is photography. So depending on how you want to start off taking pictures of your products, you may want to start off taking pictures of your products on your phone, on your mobile device. So for example, you might start off taking pictures of your products from your iPhone, from your Android, etc. That's up to you. Some store owners will actually want to invest in a professional camera because they want to make sure that they get super high quality product photos for their website, for their social media campaigns. That's up to you. A lot of people do start off taking pictures on their phone, and then as time goes on, they eventually move on to buy a professional camera. It's definitely not a requirement in the beginning. And then along those same lines, some people actually choose to hire a professional photographer to help them take those product photos for their website or with various social media campaigns. So that's another optional expense. If you want to have super high quality photos, definitely consider working with a professional, but that is obviously not a requirement. If you feel comfortable enough to take your own pictures, no one's stopping you. So now that we've covered all of the common expenses you'll find when opening an online clothing store, there are a couple of things I want you to consider when setting up your budget. So first is going to be how much you're going to price your products for. So once again, you're going to purchase your products from wholesalers at the wholesale cost. From there, you're either going to mark up the price of the product, either double or triple, depending on what your strategy is. You will figure out what works best for you, and then that's the price that you're going to sell your products to your customer, so you're able to take in the money that you make on those products. From there, you have to consider when you're going to pay yourself. So a lot of clothing store owners will not pay themselves immediately. A lot of them wait a very long time to pay themselves for the work that they're doing within their store, and that's because they're taking all of the money they make from those sales and putting it back into the business. So you might consider waiting a year or even 2 years before you take home a paycheck. It's all going to depend on how much you need to grow your business versus how much money you need to live. Another thing to consider is when you want to hire help. So you might want to hire an intern, you might want to hire an assistant to help you ship your products, or you might want to hire someone to help with graphic design and social media. So that's something to consider when setting up your budget. That can also be part of your long-term strategy. You also need to consider that you may have to put your products on sale and mark them down, because let's say it's the end of the season, you haven't sold out on a particular item, you might need to consider putting it on sale to get it out the door. So that's something to consider when you're thinking about how much you're going to profit based on the price that you're selling your products for. Another thing to consider is returned or damaged items. So it's never fun when you ship a product and you're super excited that you made a sale, and then 2 weeks later that customer ships it back to you expecting a full return. So that's just part of business. It's something that you need to consider when creating your return policy, but that's something that you also need to consider when thinking about your expenses and your profit. And lastly, I just want to point out once again, do not go into debt to open your business. I highly, highly advise against it. And that's going to be something that you need to consider, is how long it's going to take you to make back the money that you spent to open your store. So think about that and set goals for yourself when you're creating your budget. So now I want to share some categories to consider when creating your budget. So you might want to consider setting aside money for each of these categories. So all of that to be said, you can 100% open an online clothing store with a small budget. You just need to be strategic about what you spend your money on. Avoid overspending on things that will not bring a return of investment, and make sure you set aside either time or money for learning about marketing, or hiring a marketing agency, or taking the time to learn about Facebook ads and then setting aside a budget for those Facebook ads. It's just so important to include marketing as part of your budget and part of your overall strategy. So today we covered how much it costs to open an online clothing store and how to budget your online store. So if you enjoyed today's content, feel free to comment below what types of videos and what topics you would like to see in our future videos, because I will take a look at those and make sure that we cover everything you're interested in learning about. So with that, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on your notifications so you stay up to date with all of our future lessons. And with that, I hope to see you in our next video. Thanks so much.